So when you use the live Excel, it does give everybody in the meeting access to the document. Obviously, with external participants, it doesn't work quite the same. But if you're working in an office environment, everybody that's a part of your tenant should have that ability to edit in that way. Now, if you're not using Excel Live here, I have shared this file with Tony. I can share the file. So I have it open in Excel. I have my share button in the top right-hand corner here. You can click share, and you've got a couple options. You can do copy link or share. We're going to go through. Now here, I want to talk through a couple of these options. So I can add names or email here. Let's just add Kirsten. So I can add her name here. Now this little drop down, a lot of people miss this. I can do edit, view, or can't download. So this is where I say what kind of access can she have to this document. So I want to give her edit access. Now if I add a message here, what this is going to do is be the body of the email message that gets sent to her when she's notified that she now has access to this file. But before I click send, I want to talk about these two buttons here. Now, if I click on copy link, what this is going to do, it added her over here and the link was copied. And so anybody that I put up here with the permissions that I specified here now will have access to this document with this specific link. So the links that are created have a unique identifier at the end. And that unique identifier is configured specifically for these people with this access. So if Kirsten were to take that link and try to send it to somebody else, they will not have access to that file because it's configured only for her. Now, something else I can do is I can click on this cog, the little gear icon next to copy link. When I click on that, I've got a few options here. I can say I want to open it to everybody in my organization. I can specify specific people. Maybe you're an individual professional and you just need to share externally. You would want to use this people you choose. Now you can, again, change the level of access. So edit, view, or download. And then the expiration date. So this gets missed a lot too, depending on your screen. It might be like a little bit hidden. You might have to scroll down. But this expiration date is going to be really, really helpful from a governance perspective. Because again, if we're just sending links out and especially if you're opening it to everybody in your organization, then that span of control gets a little hard to manage. So if you're putting an expiration date on it, maybe I'm saying, okay, we want to work on this document through the end of the month. And so at the end of the month, that link will automatically become inactive and the access will be removed. So it just kind of automates that governance piece for you. So now I'm going to click apply. And so if I click copy, I can take that and maybe drop it in a Teams message, and it has all of that configuration that we just set, even the expiration date. Or I can click send and it'll send her an email to notify her of the access being granted. Okay, so once we have shared the document, now let's talk about managing access. So I'm going to go back to my Teams window here. When I open up the document, so this is just my Teams environment, I have this document in my document library. Anytime I have the document here, I can click on the three dots to the right of the document. So I can also share from here. I can copy the link or share. That'll take us through similar screens like we just saw. But I can also go to manage access. So if I click on manage access, now I see that these people have access to the file. And then I also can look at groups and links, but let's look at people here first. So if I click on Kirsten, I saw that she has edit access. I can expand this right from here and I can say, you know what? I actually only want her to be able to download. Or maybe she's given me the feedback that I asked for. She's already looked at it and maybe I didn't like her feedback. So now I'm going to say no direct access. and I can change her access right from here. Tony, I see your hand is up.
Could you talk about, I don't know if folks have noticed this, maybe they've used it, maybe they haven't, but the difference between, view, edit, and then can't download. I'm going to talk about can't download and why you would use that.
That's a great call out. Okay, so obviously edit, you can edit the document, make those changes. View just allows you to read it. Think about kind of like if it was like a PDF, you can look at the content, but you can't do anything with it. When you have view access, though, somebody could take that document and do save as and save it to their local machine. So you still have a little bit of that risk of that document being taken and circulated without your awareness. What you can do, though, is you can say can't download. So that means that they're only going to see the live version of the file. They will not be able to save their own local copy. Now, the one thing about can't download is that when you do can't download, they can only view it. So you can't have an edit access with can't download. That's not an option at this time, but you can block those downloads from a view access.
One of the biggest use cases that I really think of in this, for that can't download feature is, rather than like constantly, let's say, saving a document as a PDF, and then now you've got multiple versions of it, right? Like perhaps you're sharing very sensitive information. Some of that information is very timely. Years past, somebody could just simply save that off, send it to maybe another leader. They use that to start making decisions and pronouncements, only to then find out afterward that the data is out of date, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a way in which you can share and always ensure that what's being shared is absolutely the most current, useful information possible.
Good call out. All right, if I go back to my manage access screen here, I want to go over to links. So I showed you earlier how we can create the different links. These are all of the links that have been created. So see this, all these random letters and numbers at the end. That is that unique identifier that is configured specifically for the people listed. So this link is specific for these people to have edit access. This link was configured differently than this link was. So from here, this one was people and OnPoint can use this link. So maybe I'm like, oh, that link is already generated and it's sufficient for what I need. I can just copy that link right from here, share the link, and then whoever has that link now has access to that document as long as they're within the OnPoint. I can also delete these links right from here, or I can edit it. So for this one, if maybe I was like, okay, I want everybody else to still have access to this, let me just remove Kirsten. And so I could just remove her access. So the link is still active, but the other people with that link still have access, but she does not. So you can also edit the permissions on that link or delete it.
One thing we've noticed is that when you delete somebody's access, so like let's say, Steve, I'll pick on you for a moment. Let's say Steve actually was editing something I had shared. He's just typing away. I click the delete key on his access. What Steve will continue to see is the document is still there and he's still typing, right? But from the moment that I click that button, none of his changes are committed. And when he refreshes, let's say that in a browser or closes out of the file and tries to go back into it, he'll find that his access is now missing. Yeah, it looks like you've got a question, Steve, or maybe you're just upset that I picked on you.
Well, that you took my access away while I was typing. That's kind of rude. So what does the user see if the access is revoked and they try to go in?
So they'll see if you were not in the document when that happened, you would see that you do not have access. And so you should see that request access screen will come back up. So it'll say, access denied, you can request access, and then it'll send it to the document owner. So you will be rudely notified that you no longer have access.
But you would see if I was editing at the moment you went to go change.
So that's a tricky question. So if I was in the document, so here when I'm in the document, I can see that Tony up here on the top right-hand corner, I've got his initials and his little icon. It tells me that Tony's in the document. It'll even tell me right where he is. So here I can jump to the location where he is. So that would be an indicator to me that he's in the document when I'm, if I wanted to go change it. But if I didn't have the document open and I just went through the Teams window and did manage access, or through OneDrive and did manage access, I don't have any way of knowing from this way that you're in the document. And so it would just remove it. So that's where that situation that Tony was just describing comes up, where you might still be in the document and you might still be trying to make those changes, but they're not going to commit. As soon as I remove that access, you're not going to be able to save those changes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I want to talk for a minute, just a moment here, about this stop sharing button. I've worked really closely with some administrative professionals, and they're always super stressed. They never have enough time, and they're managing way too many things at once. And so they're always looking for quick ways to get things accomplished. So I had an admin once come into this screen. It was a file that was stored in a Teams environment. She came in, she needed to remove access that had been, it had been shared out and too many people were in there editing it. She needed to remove access. So in her mind, she's like, I'm just going to stop sharing it to everybody, and then I'll go back in and give it to just the 4 or 5 people that actually need it. So she clicked the stop sharing, and what this stop sharing does is it stops sharing the file at all. So, when you put a file in Teams, it's automatically shared to the people that are a part of that team. If you click stop sharing, it also removes that group access, that team access to that file. So now only the individual that created that document has access. So
The
it gets a
nuclear
little, yeah. So it gets a little bit messy at that point. So even though the stop sharing button is up here and it's very enticing, make sure that you take pause and really understand what you're doing before you click that. It's the red button. It literally should be the red button on there. Like, we need extra procedures before we click that. So be aware of that. Stop sharing means that even if it's in a Teams environment, it will stop sharing completely. Okay, that is managing access there. Now, I've been talking about this from the perspective of being within Microsoft Teams. You don't have to be in a Teams environment for this stuff to work. I am going to show you, so this is my OneDrive app within Teams. So in OneDrive, I have the option here within Teams where it says shared. I can look at my files that are shared either with me or by me, so I can kind of review those right from here. If I wanted to, I could click on the 3 dots and manage access from here. So this gives you a little bit of a view into the things that have been shared. I can also do this because if you're not using Teams at all, I can also do this through just going to OneDrive. So here I went to office.com. In case you haven't tried going to office.com lately, when you go to office.com, where's my apps? When you go to office.com, it's going to automatically come to the Copilot window. Where are my apps? Okay, let's do it this way. OneDrive. I always forget because is it .microsoft or is it .cloud? I don't know. Do it this way.
That's the. Can you get to your? Yeah, I'm wondering if that one works.
Is that the wrong one?
No,
There
it
we
did
go.
work. Okay.
Okay, so here I'm in OneDrive. From the office.com, there's usually an apps option on the left-hand side that you can access all of your apps. I don't know why that wasn't coming up, but I don't want to waste your time trying to figure out what's happening within my Copilot window there. So you can just navigate straight to your OneDrive, however you're getting to it. From here, I can click on Shared. And again, I have that same view with me, by me, and you can manage access in that way. Now, the question that I always get from here is, like, isn't there an easier way to manage that? Because yeah, I can like see those files, but what about trying to see like across all of my documents, how they're being shared and, who they're shared with, how far are they being shared? Depending on your access within your tenant, or if it's a personal OneDrive account, you can maybe run some reports depending on, what your licensing is. So it'll give you a report of where your files have been shared. If you're a global admin and a tenant, you can see, across all the entire tenant, all the files that have been shared. That'll give you some insights. The issue there is that that's just a report. It's not actionable. So it'll tell you what files are shared and how far they're shared, but you can't do anything about it. You still have to manually go find the file and manage the access. It's not super great. So there are a couple third-party tools that I've used in the past that I would recommend. One is ShareGate. That it really helps from a governance perspective and managing access. It's very, actionable on their reports. And the other one that offers the same kind of features is DeliverPoint by Lightning Tools. So there are third-party tools out there that will help you manage access to your files. If you are interested in seeing anything more about either of those products, just let us know. That's all I've got from a demo perspective. Any questions from anyone on the call, or Tony, were you about to ask something?
Yeah, would you mind stepping back into the demo for a moment? Maybe go back to the product inventory. One of the things that I think will give people pause sometimes when kind of deciding whether they want to co-author with someone is, the information could get overwritten. Like let's say you go out on a week or two of vacation, you come back and this very important file suddenly is like the calculations are wrong. Something's just not right with this. One of the things that's super important that Microsoft included while also providing the ability to co-author is version history. You want to quickly show how people can get to version history?
Yes, version history is very good. You can also restore from there. So if Tony messed up any of my product numbers here, I can revert back very quickly. So I can go to File, and then when I am in File here, I'm going to go to Info. And from here, one of the options is version history. That's like the middle of my screen here. So now when I go to version history, we've only edited it this one time, so that there's not a lot of history here, but you will see all of those revisions here on this side. And so now, like, this was how the file started. Obviously, it was a brand new file. So if I wanted to restore to a previous version, I can just click this restore button up at the top. Now, what that does is that's going to create a new version of your file, but the newest version, so maybe, this was version 1 and this was version 2. Now version 3 will be back to this blank sheet. Version history is very helpful. It's also, it's not going to tell you, line by line exactly every keystroke. With auto saving, it gets a little tricky because it's not like every moment that it's going to save a version. Can you imagine the data that would be behind that? But it will take chunks of time. I don't recall now, and they change this stuff so often, how much is considered a chunk, but you certainly could find that out by Googling it. But it is a chunk of information at a time, and then stored as a version. And you can restore those old versions by going to File, Info, and then version history. I'm in version history right now, so you can't see that option.
Steve, got a question or thoughts?
Yeah, I was wondering, so if I went in and made a change to an underlying formula to one of those cells, and that was the only thing that I had done, and you were coming back in using the version history, is there a way for you to see maybe just a small change that I made that wasn't really apparently obvious?
So, it's a great question, Steve. So in Excel, what I've seen is that it'll tell me that you made a change, but it won't necessarily tell me that you changed this formula in this cell. So it won't it won't necessarily give you those details. As a best practice, if you are in a document that you're collaborating with, especially when we're talking about Excel with formulas or macros, that kind of thing, I would highly recommend using comments. So if you change the formula, maybe add a comment to that. I'm still in version history here, but maybe add a comment to that cell that, hey, I updated the formula with these variables instead. This is why. So then that way, that's also included as part of that version history. And then anyone that comes in, they'll see your comment is on there, and that would give them an indication. But the version history, unfortunately, I haven't seen it include that level of detail.
That makes sense.